ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. I'm Robert Bannon, and thank you for joining us here today. Listen, I'm very excited about today. Not only has Jasper Kump, who's coming on the show, has the most beautiful album out. He's coming to New York for a brand new concert at my favorite place, Green Room 42. You don't even have to go in the basement to go to Green Room 42. No shade to anywhere else. It's a beautiful room, and I'm so excited to talk to him about how he makes music, but even more so, I just want to say that I have Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. I have good insurance, Jasper. I know what you do for your day job. My insurance pays. He's a licensed social worker, and everyone knows I'm nuts, so maybe we can get a little free help here today. All right, so Jasper is here. He has a beautiful album. Everybody, if you have, however you listen to music, it's called The Best Is Yet to Come. I'd love to introduce Jasper to you all. Jasper, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. It's so good to see you.
Good. I'm going to tell you my whole entire family history, and then I expect a diagnosis in 25
Well, I'm in my office right now, and I have the DSM handy. So,
oh goodness. Before we get talking about the music, but to tie in the music to both of them, you are a licensed social worker.
Yeah.
Just like I am a licensed teacher, believe it or not, people trust me with their children. Yeah. And we both have these day jobs that are important and heavy. And then we have this creative side of us as well. So can you tell us a little bit about when you started music and how you kind of tie the two of them together?
Oh my God, this could not be a better conversation. Because I've really been thinking a lot about this in preparation for the show coming up and just reflecting on everything. So I started singing when I was 11, and I grew up in the church, and so I was trained in the choir. I was trained doing music within the church, and then after I grew up in high school, I was doing choir, and then when I went to college, I was really involved in vocal jazz ensembles. So we competed heavily and did very well, as a matter of fact. And that's really where I fell in love with jazz. And so when I graduated with my bachelor's, I was already working in the medical device industry. I had sort of a day job that was very business oriented, still in healthcare, but very business oriented. And at 35, I was either going to go back and get my master's in social work, or I was going to go to New York and really try to make it as a singer. And so I chose the latter of those two. And I sold everything, and I moved into a studio apartment in Chelsea in New York City. And I had a day job lined up at the time in sort of more the business world, and had the opportunity to record and begin performing in the jazz cabaret space in New York, and spent 5 years doing that, put out a couple of albums, did several series of shows in New York, and had an absolute blast. And then at the end of that 5 years, I'll be really honest, at the end of that 5 years, I kind of missed California because I'd been in California before. But also, I think when I left New York, I felt almost like a bit of a failure. I felt like I hadn't made it because I wasn't making my full living doing music. And so, looking back at it now and where I am now, I was like, that's berserk. But I think, the both and sort of hadn't started yet. And nowadays, it's really common for people to have a bunch of different things that they do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm triggered to this conversation.
So when I came back, so that's the music thing. So when I came back to California, I started applying to graduate school, and I got in, surprise, surprise, and I started studying social work. I had the benefit of working with therapists who were LCSWs in my own personal life. And I was like, I think I want to do that. And when I went to grad school, I realized that not only are we trained as mental health clinicians and can provide therapy, but we also do community-based work. We also do sort of macro system government type stuff. And so I really felt like I'd found my people. And so I spent, 3 years in graduate school, and then it took me 3 years to get fully licensed and earn my hours and sit for the boards and all that stuff. And so there really wasn't a lot of time to be doing music at that point. So I sort of put that on the back burner. And then I worked in homeless services in LA for a while, which is really intense. And then after doing that for 5 years, I actually got a job with the UCLA Health System, which is where I am now. I've been here for the past 5 years. And what I do now in my day job is we support patients that have complex, high-risk needs in our primary care locations. So we really wrap around them and help them understand the resources available to them through their insurance, through the community, and all of that, as well as, really providing them sort of validation and feedback and encouragement all along the way. We work with a team of nurses and administrative folks that also are part of the team that supports them. But that's what I do for work during the day, which I absolutely love. But I'm thrilled to be able to be doing my music again. And so this past year, midway through the year, after the pandemic and all the other stuff we're all going through right now, I was like, I have to do music again. I have to find a way to do music again.
Wow. That's so much to say. Firstly, everybody, you can stream Jasper's album wherever music is, on Spotify or Apple Music or download it on iTunes. It is absolutely, we're going to get into the details of it. It's called The Best Is Yet to Come. I just want to just say that before we get into the rest of all of this. Make sure your homework assignment, listen to it from beginning to end. It's really beautiful, and I want to know how it all came to be and who else is behind it, because it's so gorgeous. But to piggyback, if I may say, for me, when I hear your story, one of the biggest problems that I've had I started singing it in 5th grade, right around the time you started singing, went to conservatory high school, chickened out at 18 and decided to become a teacher because I was afraid. I had gone on some auditions and I just thought I didn't have it's a brutal business, and I didn't have that time in my life. I was not ready to face all of that. 15 years of no performing. At 33, started singing again, went to acting school, got a full acting school, went to another conservatory, finished all of that, and now starting music. The hardest thing for me, without the and or but that it didn't exist, was I never felt like a failure because I never tried. I just gave up because I knew that inevitably I was going to fail. So the fear stopped me.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing, since I'm 30, I'm going to be 39. So in the past 5 years since I've started this journey again, has been feeling, and I don't know if you ever feel this way, because we have a day job that requires so much of us and is such a part of our identity, aside from the artistic side, I always feel like I'm not a full artist. It's always like, well, you're a Broadway star, you're a recording artist, you're an actor. I'm a teacher who just has fun singing. And it's very hard for me to accept, like, I'm an artist. This is my art form. How do you allow yourself the space in your personal life and professional life to live in both worlds? Do you have a set schedule? Is it whenever it strikes? Like, how do you be an artist with your day job?
Yeah, well, I'm having just gotten back into it in sort of the middle of last year. I'm still sort of finding that balance here. And, but I'm, one of the things that I think is so important, and I remind myself of this, and I surround myself with other people who remind me of this too, but your art is no less valid just because you're not on tour or, on Broadway or selling millions of records, right? When I think about singing and performing, it is just like social work. We're bringing people together. We're accessing feelings and processing emotion together. We're telling stories. And that's social work, maybe not the singing part, but the same thing with teaching, right? I mean, you're really engaging people, you're informing people, right? And you're molding them, right? Not just cognitively, but from an emotional perspective as well. So I do think that there's a lot of transferable skills if we'll use a business model. And I think a lot of the things that I have from my previous business world and from the work I do now really translate into the music, because I really think about what are the feelings, what are the stories, and how can we share that together. But I think I do have to remind myself and have other people that remind me that my art is valid, regardless of how much I do of it or how long I've done it for. I think that's really important. And the interesting thing is, when I'm in it, when I'm actually doing it, I don't have those feelings.
Same.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, it's always when I'm alone or when I'm going to work or I see someone else doing something, and then we have all of that comparison that was not healthy. What is true about what you said is, the work that we do, there's a lot of skills that I feel like if you're in front of 110-year-olds all day long throughout the day, it's a show. You're eternally doing a show.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking while you were talking, a lot of great performers, like I always remember Liza Minnelli saying every song is a monologue. You have to listen to people all the time. You listen to people and their stories and experiences, good, bad, ugly, and indifferent. So you must have you have seen all the emotions in all faces. As a singer, the songs that you pick, there's a beautiful emotion that runs through your album. It's very musical, and the instrumentation is beautiful. The song choices are beautiful. They're from the happy, joyous songs that are fun to the tender, quiet, melancholy sounds. How did you pick the songs of this album? Who's behind this? The arrangements are stunning.
Yeah. So last year, it must have been in late summer. It was when I realized, like, I need to do something. I need to do some music. And I'm really not as connected in LA on the music scene here because I really haven't done that much. And so I reached out to Russ Kasoff, who is the musical director and arranger who has done a lot of my arrangements over the years. He was the force behind Sunday New York, which was my first full-length studio album. And I was like, I'm just going to reach out and see if there's any interest or way that we could work on something together. And so we had a couple of Zoom calls together, and he said, I'd love to work on this project together. And we started, I always put a huge long list of music together, and we sort of whittle away at it and puddle around and see what sort of fits. And, his arrangements are just insane. Like, I feel so honored. This is a man who toured with and wrote arrangements for Frank Sinatra and has worked with Broadway legends and, Marilyn May. Like, it's just amazing. So I just feel so honored to work with him. And so he does all the arrangements, and we put together a really incredible band. David Fink is our bass player. He's really well known as the jazz bass player, which I love. And Dennis Mackerel was doing drums and percussion, and Kurt Bescher is the saxophone and flute on the album. And the song choices really, these are all songs that have meaning to me. Most of them are performed by people that are vocal idols, right? People that I have idolized. Like, if you look at Here's to Life, like, I am a huge Shirley Horn stan, right? And that song is just amazing. So to be able to do my version of that is just amazing. And then, The Way You Look Tonight, like Mel Torme, he is like my favorite male vocalist, and I've learned so much from listening to the Velvet Fog, which was his nickname. And that song, I didn't realize till later. I knew he had done it, but Russ's arrangement is really fast, and I wasn't expecting it to be that fast. And then I found Mel Torme's, which is the same, if not faster. So it was kind of fun to have that. But that's true of all the songs on the album. The Best Is Yet to Come, another classic. And then, Summertime has a huge place, and I'm going to talk about this in the show, but Summertime was one of the songs that I performed in my first big break, and probably the most memorable thing I've ever done. And that was at 18. My dad was in the military, and we were living in Berlin at the time. The city was still divided, so the wall was still up. And President and Mrs. Reagan were in the city, and that was when he gave his famous, tear down this wall speech. Well, it also happened to be the 750th anniversary of Berlin as a city. And so part of what they did after they had that speech was they hosted a gala for 7,000 people in this airplane hangar to celebrate the city. So dignitaries and people were there, and they wanted local American talent to perform. So I auditioned at 18 with some gospel music, and out of 400 some odd people, there were 3 of us that were chosen to perform. And I got to work with Horst Jankowski, who's sort of like the Lawrence Welk of Germany.
Okay.
And I remember walking into this huge orchestra soundstage to rehearse, and I was like, they're all going to play for me. And so I ended up singing for President and Mrs. Reagan and all these other people. And I sang Summertime was one of the big numbers that I did. I did that, and I did The Greatest Love of All, the Whitney Houston song. And then then the 3 of us sang in German, Happy Days Are Here Again, which in German is Wochenends und Sonnenschein, weekends and sunshine.
That story is incredible.
Yeah. So I had to record that one this time because it's
And it's
been
the arrangement of it is really beautiful. You sound so beautiful. It's
oh, thank you.
beautiful. It's beautiful. I love For All We Know.
Oh,
I think it's such a gorgeous standard of a song. I mean, there's a lot of meat on that song.
yeah.
And then yeah, as we said, and then you end the album with a little number, a really great arrangement of a song that is become a Broadway standard. How did you come to your Dear Evan Hansen number
Oh
in
my
the
gosh. Well, that's the biggest risk of the album. I'll just be right up front about that. So, For All We Know, Donny Hathaway, his version will always be my favorite. But You Will Be Found. I mean, come on, like the OG Dear Evan Hansens. I mean, from Ben Ross to Ben Platt. Like, I mean, these are incredible voices. Who I've listened to and seen. This song hit me so hard when I saw the show. I saw it a couple times in LA, and it just keeps coming back to me. And it moves me. And I was really nervous to do it because it's a newer song and some amazing voices have done it. And I was like, am I going to do this justice, or am I going to embarrass myself? And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I decided when we did the arrangement, I was like, let's just do the front part of it. Because I could try to get other people to do the rest of the back end of the song, but I was like, no, let's just do the front part of it. And I'm so glad we did, because we really just sort of concentrated it on that.
Well, it's really beautiful. I pressed play. I was at the gym here in Jersey, and our mutual friend Robbie Roselle was like, "You need to listen to Jasper. You need to hear Jasper's album." So I go in. I go on the elliptical machine, and as I do, listen to new music to try to just get ideas and to see what's out there and listen to whatever. And the first song, the opening of your album, it just took me in with the musicality, instrumentation, and then your voice is beautiful. And then I was just I just was on the elliptical machine. The whole thing went through, and I was like, this album is beautiful. I commend you on your story is so inspiring, because it's persistence. You're the persistence, and I always say that when you're an artist and you're artistic, it chases you. Like, you could be a social worker, I could teach forever, but in the back of my head, I'm hearing music. I want to sing it. I want to be in this. I want to do that. Yeah. So that leads us to you live. You're live. You're coming back to New York City.
Yes.
What is going on? Tell us what you're going to see.
Well, yeah, I'm so excited. The Green Room 42 is such a gorgeous space. I'm so excited to be able to go there. I've played a lot of different places in New York City and had a great time, but I'm so excited to be there. I'm really thrilled that almost every player from the album will be on stage with me at the show. So we're going to have the Russ Kasoff or RK Quartet. So the only thing is that Dennis Mackerel wasn't available, so we went with Steve Singer, who I've worked with before. He's featured on my live album, Starfish and Coffee, and so I'm really excited to have the full band there. We're going to do almost everything from the new album. We're doing 2 or 3 cuts from my other 2 albums before this. And we have some surprises up our sleeves. In fact, we're going to be doing one of my original songs, a jazz arrangement of one of my original songs that I haven't performed live on stage before. And then there's a couple of surprises that I won't share. You'll have to come and see.
Well, if you want, you can live stream it at home.
Yes.
Set up. You can be right up close and personal.
Yeah.
Or you can get your tickets August 25th at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at greenroom42.com. They have great food. It's a beautiful room. It's a lot of fun. You have a drink.
Yeah.
And see your show. So you write as well.
Yes. I haven't done as much of it lately, but yeah, I have, a few songs up my sleeve, and I'm excited to do. I'm trying that again. I'm trying to take more risks. So I'm trying to do more of my original stuff. When I did the Starfish and Coffee shows, we did a song I wrote called "Hey Jesus" live there, and I recorded it years before on one of my earliest albums, and that was pretty well received. And so I'm like, let's do another one. So.
Yes, of course. So how do you?
Russ is arranging it, so it's going to be good no matter what the song is.
It's going to be beautiful. Well, I'm going to be there. It's August 25th. Make sure you get your tickets. I will be there. I'm looking so forward to it. So can you tell us a little bit about how you approach a show? How you told us a little bit about the set list. How do you build a show? Is there a story? Is it a true cabaret? Is it more of a concert? How do you arrange your songs to make sense for us and for you?
Yeah, so I think there isn't a particular through line per se, but there is a rhyme and reason to it. And so, some of the songs, like I'm going to start the show with "Starting Here, Starting Now," which is kind of no brainer, right? It came from from the Sunday in New York album. It's a fun samba number, and it's a great way to kick off the show. So that was sort of a no brainer. And then as we go through the show, I'm going to talk a little bit about like what has inspired me, which artists have inspired these songs, and share some stories as well. But it's really going to be focused on the music. Right now we have, I think, 14 songs on the set list. So we're going to be going through a lot of the music. So there won't be as much chit chat, but I'm going to give you a lot of music.
Oh, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. Your band is the people on the album, the arrangements, and then coupled with your voice live. I mean, you can't beat that. It's going to be a beautiful night to kind of finish up part of the summer together. And it's like my end of the summer before I have to go back to my day job, Jasper.
Yes, exactly.
As you're out there in LA and as you're working and singing, I'm sure music is a form of therapy for you.
Absolutely.
And theater and art in general. When you have been experiencing, especially over the past 3 years, what was it like to kind of record this through the pandemic? Like I recorded through the pandemic as well. And
oh my God, I love your album. My God.
Thank
you. Seriously, it's so good.
Thank you. But as is yours. And when I listen to it, I'm like, where's these musicians who arranged this album? Well, how can I steal them? No, I wanted to know, what was the process like during the pandemic? Do you think that if the pandemic is kind of the impetus for making it? For me, It was my artistic outlet. I felt very alone and isolated. So what was that a similar experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was a very different experience because Russ is, in upstate, and so, we were Zooming a lot. And I work with Norma Garbo, who's my vocal coach in New York City, who I just absolutely adore. And she obviously, I have to be honest, like she really was a big part of why this ended up happening, because when I engaged with her, I was really insecure. I'm like, is my voice still strong? Can I still pull this off? And she really, in addition to all the technical stuff that she teaches me and helps me with, she's also just the biggest ray of sunshine and support. So that was a big piece of it. But then meeting with Russ, we would go over music on Zoom, and then he would decide on what the arrangement was going to be, and he would send me the chart, and then he would send me sort of a rough piano track, and I would rehearse to the piano track and rehearse to the piano track. And so we never physically met or rehearsed before going into the studio. So I flew around Thanksgiving last year. I flew to New York, stayed with some friends in Westchester, and then we recorded in New Jersey. And then we mastered it up in Monroe, upstate, but kind of where Russ lives. We worked with Phil Bulla, who is a master. He really made me sound the best I possibly could. So
I love that story so much. I love that the invention through these crazy times, and how through the technology, we were able to really make things happen.
I know. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm so excited to hear you live and meet you in person. When before I let you go, as someone who works in the mental health field and with all the craziness that's been going on in the world, what do you I saw it this year, especially in my classroom. We had a lot of different socialization issues and problems with the children who have been home for 2 years and being together. Do you have any free words of wisdom for us who are all coupling with this crazy world? Do you have any personal practices that help you feel better, or that we can share to the people watching?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So mindfulness. I can never say it enough. And it doesn't have to be meditation. It can be in your daily life, but it's something that I don't just do on my own, but like even here at work, like when we have an all hands meeting with our team of over 100 people, every time we meet, we spend 5 or 10 minutes doing some sort of mindfulness meditation. So that's a big piece of it. And then finding a way to have community, even if you're not able to physically be with each other. We are social beings. We have to be connected to one another. And, as somebody who's single and living alone, this was brutal. And I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten for me, like in terms of feeling isolated and alone, until several months in. And, thankfully I had a therapist, and still do, and we Zoomed together. And so, I had that sort of to help me, deal with it. So, and that's the other thing. Please don't hesitate to get help. Like, I have my mental health challenges, and I get a lot of help for those, and I'm grateful for that. And I always encourage people to just explore it and see if it might be useful for you.
Absolutely. I know it saved me. It saves a lot of people. There's still a stigma around mental health in a lot of communities, a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong we all need a little support sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. And I have to say this, if you're in crisis and you haven't heard yet, there's a new hotline that you can use called 988. It's nationwide, and you can call if you're feeling down or you're feeling like you might want to harm yourself. 988 is the number. It works like 911, but it's specifically for mental health.
Well, that's so important. Thank you so much for sharing that. Everybody, listen, the best is yet to come. We're just, it is yet to come. Jasper, this album is out. Make sure you stream it on wherever you listen to music. Make sure you download a copy on iTunes as well. And if you're in the New York area or you're anywhere in the world, get yourself a virtual ticket, August 25th, 7 o'clock. I mean, if you didn't just hear him tell what the set list of music is, it's going to be a beautiful night. So if you're home, you can have a little date night and listen to some beautiful music, or take someone you love and care about, or yourself, out to Green Room 42 right on 42nd Street at the Yotel Hotel, and come upstairs and see him perform live. It was really a pleasure to talk to you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Robert,
for sharing your art and your wise words and your journey and story, because I know it resonates to a lot of people out there who are afraid to get back into their artistic self.
Yeah. It's been my pleasure.
And thank you. Till next time.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. I'll be there.
I'll be there. I'll be there. Well, how great is that? How wonderful is that? That's why I always say you got to finish your business. My album is called Unfinished Business, because we all have something we're afraid to do and tackle. I'm so happy that he tackled what he is on this planet to do, and there's something you're on this planet to do as well. So today is the day. Take that first step, make that first move, and I promise you a path will all follow. If you're an aspiring artist out there, don't give up. Don't wait too long. You can do it. Everyone will tell you you can't. They're lying. You sure can. I'm Robert Bannon. Join us every single week on the Roundtable. We're live and a bonus episode every single week. I hope you'll join us next time. Thank you so much for being here. Until then, bye, everybody.